1, right? We're like a few seconds early, but hello. Let's see, I got a little bit of a delay here on my audio. I'm gonna go ahead and mute this right here. I've done can't talk. I'm a little excited. I haven't done a live stream in like over a year. And when I did them before, they were basically just live streams of my build. I never had a chat session, a rap session with people. So hopefully you guys got some stuff you want to talk about. Hopefully this isn't just a kind of waste of time. I forgot, I do have one more thing. I'm gonna have to grab it in a minute, but I guess to kick things off, I just want to welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody that's a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber and you're watching this currently, I'm only letting subscribers in the chat do any chatting just to try to keep things from being kind of spammed or anything. Yeah, so who do we got? We got, first and foremost, SK3D. SK3D is my first patron on Patreon. I forgot I had a Patreon account. And then I get some random email from Patreon and with a message from this SK3D, and it's like, wow, thanks, you know, and really get it. I really do appreciate it. You're absolutely right. It does take time, effort. There are some money. Luckily, I did have some of this stuff already. I do enjoy doing photography with my family and my kids, so I did have cameras. Is the video good? Is everybody seeing everything here? Am I coming through okay? It's gonna take a second to see that in the chat, but before I get too far into this. Hello. Yes, sir, that works. Perfect, looks great. So yeah, so SK3D, big thumbs up, thank you. I don't expect anything from anybody. I do this for the fun of it. I also do it for the backlog, the information, the storage of who I was when I was at this age when I had young children. So hopefully when they get older, they can look back at dad and say, man, was he dumb. And then my grandkids will think of how ancient I look and the ancient things I did, because by then, you know, they'll have replicators as opposed to 3D printers, and they will just download files off of something not called the internet and build TVs. So this is the start of it for you kids, all right? Let's see who else we got here. We have the first layer. Hey, Rich, your name's out there, so Rich, you seem like an awesome guy. I really do want to talk with you at some point. I kind of been spinning around with Rich. I got Golden Jaguar. I'll go back to Rich in a second, but hey man, what's up? Every time I show up, you show up. Every time I show up to one of your streams, you're saying what's up. So hey man, you're on the phone, so you can't, well you can, it's just difficult. You can't tag on a phone because you got to type out the whole dang name, and it's a pain in the, you know what. But that being said, back to Rich. Rich is the first layer. He's got this awesome community on Facebook, so if you want to go seek him out, you can do that. Just an awesome guy all the way around. Rich is currently working on doing a dedication build for a friend of his out past. Just happens to be a Voron, so through the grapevine, actually through Golden Jaguar, who told me that Rich, the first layer, did a kind of a call-in session for, I apologize saying I do it a lot. I hate it, trying to work on it. On basically helping people with their printer problems. Because I was thinking about doing this thing, and hopefully this migrates into that eventually. This is kind of a first time kind of try thing, but hopefully it migrates into, why isn't this, my stream here is not doing what I want to do. I just noticed. Oh, there we go. Okay. Whole bunch of stuff on there got missed. But anyways, I wanted to do a call-in. So I put a couple of things up on my community about doing a call-in, basically a Zoom call type thing. So kind of a call-in session where you can call in video or just voice, but kind of pull the community better a little bit together. I don't have a huge community. I got about 1,000 subscribers. Rich has a much larger community with First Layer. But if I was to do something like that, I'd like to bring in other content makers, such as Golden Jaguar, such as Rich over the First Layer, and not necessarily do roundtable type of things where we have a ton of people, but kind of do, you know, a multi, you know, everybody's got their own point of view. Everybody has their own little take on things, and every problem that has more than one solution, all solutions should be looked at, you know? So having a couple of people that have maybe some knowledge in the things that you might have trouble with could be helpful. So go ahead and leave some comments in this if you're interested in that type of thing. Go ahead and hit up Rich over at The First Layer on his YouTube channel, on his Facebook. Same thing with Golden Jaguar. Let him know if you're interested in this type of thing, because I really think that we can help with a group of people here that could really help out everybody in general, and you can also help out, you know, your co-viewers, if you will. So let me catch up here on some chats real quick. We got a bunch of heyas and hellos and all that type of stuff. Wow, it was hard enough with one child. Justin with two, yeah. So Brad, congratulations. I don't expect you to put it in chat here, but I still don't know the name of that child. Good job there with the wife and keeping her comfy, I hope. I assume you still have all your teeth. Brad, I released a video for last video, and Brad wanted to be the first commenter, and his first comment said something to the extent of, I wanted to be your first commenter. My wife's in labor. I'll watch the video as soon as I can. Dude, crazy. All right, one child, Hey folks, hello, lots of hellos, on phone, can't tag, Gold Jagger got you there. Going back down through. Always happy to help First Layer. Yes, thank you. Gold Jaguar, awesome. Yeah, again, send me an email. I need email addresses. Working through messages and comments, it doesn't work so well. I've had a running dialogue on Facebook with The First Layer. When you have a Meta account, I can't directly message out people. I have to log into my personal account. So worst comes to worst, I'll send you a message using my personal Facebook account so I can get a hold of you that way. But we'll work something out. With that all being said, we've got about 14 people on right now. Brad, I'll send you a name. Much appreciated. Content camera. There's also need to enable super chats on your channel. So I can't have super chats on my channel because I went almost a year without producing any content. So the amount of viewers I had, or the view hours I had on my videos, pretty much went down to, I don't know, probably 20, 30, maybe 50 a day. With the content I already had. Some of that content is out of date at this point, so it's not a bad thing that people aren't still watching it. I'm not doing this first and foremost for YouTube. I'm not trying to be that evergreen content creator and make my retirement off of YouTube. But as soon as I do have 4,000 concurrent for the year watch hours, which right now I think I'm at 3,400 or something like that, then I will be able to monetize, which allows me to do super chat and that type of thing. So we're almost there. We'll get there soon enough. I think probably maybe by the end of next month, hopefully, right? We'll see that. So I'll get home. You said that to me already, Golden Jaguar. You didn't get back to me. I know you lost your laptop. Hopefully you got that window fixed. Every time I read something, every time I watch your videos, I watch your content, same thing with you, Rich, it all sinks in. I do pay attention. I do enjoy working with everybody. Everybody has their own little story here. I mean, I could pretty much tell you a little bit about every person that's in the stream, and that's kind of what I want, honestly. It's kind of awesome like that. Yeah, let's change that so you can get your hours in. I can help you with strategies. Yeah, long form content tends to get some hours in. Doing stuff like that. We can talk about it. It's not my first priority is to get monetized, but it'd be helpful. I spent a lot of money on 3D printers, and I don't know if the wife knows it, so hopefully she doesn't watch this video. Yeah, this is for real. So me too, my friend. Yes, thank you. Woody there, yeah. So yeah, everybody's got a story here, man. This is awesome. So you guys, if you have some questions, if you guys want to talk about, go ahead and throw it in the chat right now while I'm waiting for that to happen, while this is all flowing here in the background. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little quick tour of my little setup here, because people ask about that. And before I do that even, I'm gonna introduce myself, because I don't think I usually talk much about myself. You guys know I have kids. I have 2 kids, one Haley, one Keegan. One's 8, one's 12. Great kids, real fun to be with, real fun to be around. Take up a lot of time between basketball and now baseball coming out, stuff like that. My first name is Kermit, if you didn't know that. So just like the green frog, my first name is Kermit, so you cannot forget that. The BB, Build It Basement, my last name starts with a B as well. You can find that if you really want to. Speaking of which, I have this that I printed off recently. Somebody will recognize that. And I gotta go grab some real quick, and I'm gonna switch over to my wide angle camera to kind of give you guys a tour of what we got here. But I'll keep talking. I'm gonna be off camera here for a second. And for my tour, I'm going to be wearing something I just printed. It's my special 1,000 sub Build a Basement headband. You like it? Oh man, this is all about having fun for me, you know what I mean? You guys are all fun. So let me get over to my tripod cam right over here. This is normally my desk cam. I have it moved just to kind of give a wide area shot. My screen's right here, obviously, so I'll be talking back to if I go and read comments, but I'm gonna give you just a quick tour of the things I have in here. And I don't know, yeah, over here. So over here, on this side, I have my printers. I know you can't see them all, but they start off with an Ender 5 that's modified with a Micro Swiss all metal hot end. It's got some other minor modifications in there. It's running Clipper, and running Clipper is actually the primary thing that got me into Vorons. Next to that, I got my V0.1, which you can't see, it's off camera. You can see the corner of my other V2.4, which is desperately in need of some upgrades, so we're going to get to that. It's my test bed for messing around with. If I need a part, I print it on this. I also use my V0 for a lot of parts too. My V0 is not enclosed whatsoever, and my other V2.4 Voron is currently has panels on it, but they're some of them clamped on, some of them taped on, because I've been ripping things apart and stuff for doing that. So I got my desk areas right here, my monitor set up. Up here I have a portion of my filaments that I have. I keep ABS and ASA down here, PLA's up top. I have shelves on the other side with additional filament over there. My filaments of choice are Sparta 3D. I love Polymaker, Sparta 3D. I get my Polymaker from Amazon, which I think is where everybody would get it. My desk area, I do all of my production work real time. I do not do much editing. So I use OBS along with the Stream Deck to do most everything I do. So hopefully that doesn't look too bad in my videos. Again, trying to do things where I show people and come across as somebody's trying to be helpful more than cinematic. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that do things with purple lights and pink lights and, you know, that fade and all that type of stuff. I think that's awesome. If I was able to do that along with the way I do it, close-ups and stuff like that, I'd do it, but there's priorities, right? Cameras, right now you're on a Lumix. That is the G5, I forget, G5GX. Yes, I think that's what it's called. Here I have my Sony. This is my Alpha 7 III. That is an awesome camera. I had that before I started all this. It's one of the first cameras I used, that in a Canon. I have my Lumix G7 here that I use for my top-down video. The Lumix camera is awesome if you're ever looking to do any of this stuff. Can't beat the price for the value for what you get for resolution. You can get a Lumix camera relatively cheap, and then hook it up to a relatively cheap HDMI input on a computer. Done, you're good. I use a, what's it called? A Elgato 4-bay PCI on my computer, just so I can have multiple cameras, not deal with it. But that's pretty much it. Right over here on the far end is the Voron I'm working on. Soldering station, tools. I got a desk here that rolls. I can move it around. I got a bunch of stuff on there we can talk about. I got what I'm working on here we can talk about. So I'm gonna switch back over to this camera so I can actually read some comments. All right. All right, so what do we at? We got, all right, let me see here. Gantry issue being too tight at the front of the frame. Spent 2 hours trying to figure out what the problems. Love it. Okay, so we'll get to that, that gantry issue, and that's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also using the Rama's idlers. Go ahead and let me know for sure on that as we go through, and I'll loop into that. First layer is laughing his rear end off. I don't know. Well, let's see. We need to get watch hours up. So just amazing content from more people. Need your perspective. Perspective. I have so many perspectives. I am spastic and fantastic. Let's see here. Great looking setup. Yeah, I cleaned a little bit, and I'm sure my headband helps out, right? Let's see. Yeah, 1,000. Actually, I made 1,000 a while back. It's just like anything else. Once you hit certain milestones, things kind of happen quicker. I've gone from 1,000 to 1,040 subs here the past like week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I don't think it really has much to do with the content. It just has to do with the way YouTube works, and basically it's a snowball effect. Those big guys that have 10, 100,000 subscribers, they probably lose more or gain more in a day than I do in a year. So that's how it happens. So let's see here. Seems like the extrusion for the tool. Okay, we'll get back into that. Extrusion back to the gantry, email using. Okay, I will get to that. Limited editing, what makes your content different? Yeah, so SK, yeah, so I every time I do a video, I think of it like a cooking show. And I love to cook too. That's the other thing. I do all the cooking in my house, unless I want breakfast for dinner. And one of the worst things about cooking shows is the fact that they'll start off mixing something in a bowl, and they say we're going to put it in a preheated oven for 350 degree preheated oven for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to do this, and then 5 minutes later they go take it out, and bang boom, you're at the end of the show, and everything's doing. People are eating. Great, yeah, but. People do that with 3D printer stuff a lot too. They basically go through and say, we're going to run this cabling through this cable chain. And the reason why they cut it out is because it's not easy. Some of these things are hard. You know, there are mistakes that are made even by people that have done it multiple times. I've completely built a Voron V2.4, but I make mistakes. I do. I'm human. That's one of the reasons why I like to do these streams, is so people can let me know. I've got some people here today that have let me know some things I made mistakes. And I'm not saying that I said 48 volts when I should have said 24 volts, looking at you. You know, there are things that happen almost in every video that are slightly off, and I try to put them in the comments after the fact if I catch them, but if you catch them, put them in there too. I don't mind being corrected. Back to that 24 volt, 48 volt thing, I do a lot of work with microwave in my real job, and that's all 48 volt, along with other equipment too. So my head was stuck in work, I guess, that day. Yeah, Rama's Harken Pin mods, yes. Okay, I'll jump over that. Let me get through this real quick. The irony is, in moving my setup to the basement, 7 printers, tool cart, etc., you're gonna give me some great ideas. Steven, if you want, I can give you more kind of a better view of everything. That was just kind of a quick thing. I had my camera that I normally have on my desk on a tripod, just so I had some filler, because I really had no clue what we're going to do in this video, to be honest. So let's see here. Like the hat. Yeah, I made it just for this. So my daughter wanted a bunny rabbit thing for her head, and I printed it off last night, and I did it with basically 2-color, yellow and pink. And after I got done that this morning, I was down here trying to clean up a little bit because it was a little bit messier than it is now. And I was like, well, while I'm doing that, why don't I jump into Tinkercad real quick and just make a band and that. And my Fusion 360 skills aren't up to snuff yet, so this took about 5 minutes to throw in there and print off, and here we are. And congratulations to me for 1,000 subs. It's my special hat. Hope you like it. Kind of forgot my 360, but I finally getting it down. Oh, my 350, but I finally getting it dialed. That's at 360. I'm going blind. Oh, headband is sick. Keegan Gamer. So can everybody say hello, Keegan? Keegan is my son, who's currently driving in the back of a car with my wife to go roller skating. That's why I chose this time to do this, because I don't roller skate. So if everybody has a second and could do me a favor and say hello, Keegan. Keegan has a little channel that he has as well. It's mostly shorts videos for games he plays on his phone and stuff like that. But just say hello. He'll get a kick out of it. Hi, Keegan. Hi, Haley, too. I know you're with Haley, so hello, both of you. And hi, Mom. Hi, Jess. I will see you guys later for dinner. Oh, the countertop corner setup is exactly what I'm going for. Mama has the rest. Yeah. So there's good things about having a corner area like this when it comes to, and another thing about my production, about having a corner like this is awesome for workspace. I'll tell you what, I would not give this up for the world when it comes to actually building things. When it comes to producing content for YouTube, it kind of sucks. Pardon my French, but the problem is people that make YouTube videos and make, you know, nicer ones, air quotes, they have longer shots that they can make. My camera right now that you're looking at, to me, is only about 24 inches away from me. And I think Golden Jaguar is actually working on this a little bit in his setup too, to have more of that better look effect where he's setting a little bit further back from the camera. But you need some depth to do that. And the way my workspace is set up, I don't really have that depth to work with. But that being said, I got plenty of room to put a printer down. I got plenty of room to do some soldering at the same time. I got a keyboard and mouse right here. I can pretty much go from putting in some heat certs to inserting a part and then over to here to look at a PDF all at the same time. So I like the setup, it works great. Corner setup's great for building printers and also great for the YouTubes. Let's see here. There we go. Thanks guys for the hello Keegans. I appreciate that. He's got a little smiley face and I'm sure he's actually smiling out there on the road. You guys, you should also say, hey, get on the stream, Keegan. Again, he's 12 years old and I really want him to get into this stuff like I was when I was his age. So he's doing a little bit in school, but yeah, so it's one of the main reasons why I started doing this. So, all right, no real questions out there really, except for the one from Woody there. And Woody, I'm gonna pull my printer over to kind of look at this, and I gotta clear off some desk space here real quick. I'm gonna switch over to, I think, this camera. That camera, yep, it's got kind of everything I want, so I can do what I gotta do, and you guys have something to look at while I'm doing it. So let me clear off some space here for Woody. Woody, if everybody wants this, Woody's brand new to 3D printers. Woody's been around the block when it comes to plastic. He knows his way around a lot of things, and he is probably, I think he fibbed to me. I think Woody has a background in CAD. He just didn't tell me. But Woody is picking up the Fusion 360 right now. I think he's using the Fusion 360 to teach himself how to build models, and he's doing an awesome job. He really is. He's only, as far as I can tell, maybe a month or so into working with Fusion, but he's doing some great stuff. I'm trying to encourage him to put stuff up on a Git, but that's a whole nother thing. He's gonna have to learn to do it, but I basically told him if he's going to be working with 3D printers, he's gonna have to learn how to use Git anyway. So let me get that 3D printer over here. They don't make them light. And let me switch over to, is this one gonna work? That one kind of works. It's a little dark here today. I had to adjust my cameras a little bit. Just because it was blowing out other things. So Woody, I think the issue you're having, and I see you're talking here. Let me see. Can I explain further when you get the unit there? Yep. I know you're 66. Well, I knew you were in your 60s. I didn't know how old you were. And it's kind of surprising. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people in, you know, the generation before mine that are really getting into 3D printers. So that's interesting. You know, that's cool. I'm hopeful that in 30 years, or not 30, geez, in 20 years, when I get up around that age, that there'll be something as cool as this, newer than this, when I get there. So forward to the future. No CAD background. Lots of old-time mechanical drawings. That counts. But anyways, 7 kids, 23-year-old, 4-year-old, 2 Enders, 1 Voron 2.4, Stealth Burner Clockwork 2. I'm working on electronics. Thanks for the great content. Jeremy, thank you for being here and thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. If the only thing I ask is that you like the comment that you do like, and you leave comments on the videos that are constructive, if you have anything constructive, and if not, just a hello or a thanks or anything in there. Hitting that like button and leaving comments forces the YouTube algorithm. People talk about the algorithm like it's a guy. If he is a guy, I picture him being a short Italian guy with a baseball bat, but anyways, it forces the YouTube algorithm to expand the content out to other people. What's happening right now, my content specifically, is it's very focused in the people that are specifically looking for the things I have. I've had so many people tell me that they are really upset that they had to look so long to find my content. I have no control over that. You have control over that. So, okay, 54 here. All right, I'll be 45 this summer. 58 here. I guess we're all in the 40s and 50 groups. Except for Brad. Brad, if you're 40 or 50 and just had that kid, we gotta talk, man. First the question: mainsail or fluid? Which do you prefer and why? I use both. I think I like the way fluid looks a little bit better, but mainsail actually has a few additional things that you can do with it that you can't really do in fluid. There's also Octoprint. A lot more people are familiar with Octoprint. The problem with Octoprint is it requires a little bit more horsepower on the back end. So if you're running on the Raspberry Pi or something like that, it tends to bog that down a little bit more. But there are a lot of things you can do in Octoprint. Octoprint's actually the first thing I ran on my Ender 5 when I upgraded the Clipper. And then I eventually went, I think my Ender 5 is running fluid right now. My V01, throat's getting dry. Have myself a Coke and a smile. My V01 is running mainsail and my V2.4 is running fluid. I haven't decided on this one. Matter of fact, if people want to leave comments on this video or wherever they want to leave them type of comments, I'm open for whatever, honestly. I will run mainsail on this or fluid. I'm good with whatever. Let's see here. You're the man, 7 kids is awesome. Yes, 7 kids is awesome and also tiresome. A Golden Jaguar 34. Man, you can't be 34. Don't lie to me. You're like 24. Anyways, so if we're comparing kids here, and you know, I'm a competitive type of dude. My mom comes from a family of 18 and my dad comes from a family of 21, which is why they told me they only had 1 kid. I'm an only child. And I completely understand, and I completely think they're telling a joke, but at the same time, they were serious about the fact as to why they only had 1 child. My mom was the oldest daughter in that family, so there you go. Chuck, 78. Chuck, you don't look 78 either. You don't look 24, but you don't look 78. Mike, 51. All right. What do you hope he makes it? Makes it to 78. What do you hope you don't mind I'm using your name? I mean, you got the logo there anyways, right? Based on the, I'll make one comment here to people. I strongly feel that you start getting old when you stop learning things, which is why I get really excited when I see people in their 60s and 70s getting into these printers for the first time. I think you stay young as long as you keep your brain young. So for that reason, Woody, I don't think there's any chance in hell that you're not going to make it to 78. I'd be very doubtful you don't make it to 100. So the race is still long for you. It's not a sprint. Brad, hello Keegan, your dad's channel is awesome. Yeah, your dad's awesome, Keegan. I get the, gee, but I'm 34. I get it, you're 34. Yeah, young at heart though, like me. People don't usually believe me when I tell them I'm in my mid 40s either, so. Let's see here. Zach, you're 28. I think you're the youngin so far here. I don't know how we got into ages here, but you guys do what you want to do. I'm good. It was a BYOT, bring your own topic, and right now we're on how old everybody is, I guess, right? It's not a bank. No penalty for early withdrawal. I stopped at 4 draw. I can take that comment so many ways. Tell them black don't crack. Yeah. Found content today with ABS 3D printing search. Subscribed immediately. L. Scott, appreciate that. A subscriber. And like I was telling people a minute ago, I don't know if you were here during that, but likes and comments, man. Likes and comments and make it easier for other people to find that stuff. If you were looking at the old how to print ABS on an Ender printer, a lot of things I do to change that video now, looking back, a lot of things I missed. It wasn't as complete as I wish it could have been. More than happy to do another video like that in the not so distant future. A lot of companies still sell, Creality and a lot of other companies still selling those printers or similar to those printers. So with a few minor upgrades, you can print ABS on just about any printer out there. And ASA for that matter. PETG, a little bit easier than both of those. PLA is a good starter plastic to work with, great for models and things like that, but you're not going to make anything that's going to last a long time unless it's sitting on a shelf. I've also printed actually polycarbonate on my Ender, if you can believe that. That was fun, but also there's a video on that too. I think it's called Bulletproof Plastic, because sometimes you got to grab the attention of people. You know, I'm gonna come back to the printer here in a second, but we're gonna go back to this right here so people can actually see these comments if they're watching the video, because they're gonna drop off and I'm gonna lose my viewership time if I do that, right? First layer, Rich, agree? Yeah. Let's see here, what else we have? 3 hits of that, da da da. All right, you got that right, Rich. All right, thanks for serving. Yeah, oh, who's serving? JP. All right, I'm assuming we're talking about, 3 years, but not 4 years in the military is 100. I agree with that, JP. I'll talk about the military here for a quick second. Little personal information. I think people like to hear personal information every once in a while about the people they watch. Military. So when I was in high school, I remember talking to the military. I talked to the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and I think the Marines too. And I got so sick of the way every branch was talking about every other branch. And, you know, of course, this is almost 30 years ago now. But, you know, and these are passé things that people know happen. But, you know, the Air Force would say, yeah, Army's great if you want to go live in the mud, sleep in the mud, you know, you want to do that. Then the Army guy'd say, yeah, you can join the Air Force. You know, there's plenty of gay people in the Air Force, however you want to take that. And it was just ironic, stupid, and all those things. So I basically swore off the military at that point in time because I decided that we're all one team. And you know, that comes through in my adult life now. We're all one team. I don't understand why you got to talk bad about other people. And, you know, being young back then when that was happening, you can't exactly stand up and say that to the recruitment person. But that's how I felt in my gut, man. You know, for better or worse. And I guess there are some things that are truthful to an extent. With the different branches, but it was just bad. So I worked at a bed and breakfast when I was about 18 years old. And one night we had somebody staying there, didn't know the guy, he's from Texas. And I was chatting with him for about an hour and a half or so like that. And next thing I know, he's recruiting me to go do West Point. So I get an envelope in the mail. I gave my information. This is a blur, it's a long time ago now. And I get an envelope, this builds on the other story. I get an envelope in the mail. It's got all this information about West Point in it. It's got a letter from the office, because there's no recruitment office, or there was no recruitment officer in the state of Maine. So he took it upon himself to recruit me from Texas and basically wanted to arrange for a visit to West Point. And inside of this envelope was all this information for West Point, along with information from him. And basically basically these are the steps we're going to take if you want to move forward with this, da da da. And on top of all that, there was a letter of recommendation from the Maine state governor. I don't know the Maine state governor. Well, back then, I still don't, but I didn't know the governor back then, had nothing to do with it. So again, it played into that whole thing where this is just weird and wrong, you know? Too much manipulation. And I don't want to get into politics or anything like that, government, but it just turned me off as a kid. And I was smart enough to realize what was happening. I do think, you know, things could have worked out well that way too, but it is what it is. So you brought me down a path, sorry about that. Let's see here. What did I get back to you here? Let's see, are you going with the tap sensor on this right? Yes, this guy, it does have, let me switch back over this real quick. Let me try this one. This camera I don't like I don't like, where is it? What the hell? Yeah, we'll go with this one. So this does have a tap on it right now. I couldn't build it without a tap. It was a pretty easy build. I didn't see anything wrong with it. It's going to that way I don't need a Z end stop on the back here, which is how I was able to just purge bucket the way it is. I did that. I am a little concerned about my kinematics bed, specifically on this front right corner with this tap being there. I did some preliminary testing to see if it's going to mess up, and it shouldn't, but I'm not a big fan on shouldn't. I am a much bigger fan of will not mess up. So I have concocted a plan if it does mess up. I've reached out to Mandela, and they do have these ears that you can put on the back side here that extend them out a little bit further, that makes the triangle bigger, which will make it work that way. Let's get into Woody's question though. Let me see if I can get over here. So Woody's question is about these Rama idlers. And Woody, my question to you is, your back is fitting in correctly, from what I understand. You have everything already set up. Let me pull this forward a little bit. You have your AV motors mounted. They should still be loose on your printer. You have everything else there. You don't have your belts on yet, I would assume. And you're putting your gantry in. Now, clearance on the backside here is very minimal. You do have clearance. It does move freely. Not right now because of the belts and the motors, but it does move free here. And on the front here also, I have approximately, I would say, 1/2 to 3/4 of a millimeter on both sides as these Rama idlers are up against these posts. Now, I was wondering where your issue is. Is it this portion of let's see, this side, yeah. Is it this portion of the idler that's too close to this extrusion? Or is something else happening here? Because if everything's printed properly, it's difficult to do that because there's a ridge on the inside of these parts that basically fit in the extrusion. Let me see here, Woody. Okay. Different angle, we can see extrusion of gantry. Okay, let me flip this a little bit. Let's see. Rama idler is worth the upgrade. So, oh, I might go get. Be right back. I'm gonna go get my tripod here. See if we can get a better view for Woody, our friend Woody. Woody, who's gonna make it to 100. And let's get this camera off and back on. Come on. There we go. All right. So, getting a little laggy there. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. All right. So, let's see, Woody. Top view is fine. Just need to see the back of the gantry. Okay, let me flip this over then. I crushed my mic with a printer. Okay. Don't want to grab it by the gantry. That would not be good. I don't think it would hurt anything, but better safe than sorry. Okay. So what do you specifically need to see here, Woody? What sorry about the shaky cam here, but what are we looking for here, bud? Need to see the back of the gantry extrusion. Sit it back upright so the short back gantry rail is 8 millimeters too short. So you're talking about this, let's see, short back gantry rail. So this rail right here, this back gantry rail, is 8 millimeters too short. Elaborate on that a little bit if you could. And while you're elaborating on that, first layer, why these idlers? Okay, so the original reason is the original idlers, which there's been 2 revisions of since I built my first Voron. The alignment of the belt was not perfect. It was far from perfect. It wasn't very good in actuality. The Rama idlers fixed that problem. They give better, or they gave, I didn't build the brand new idlers. They might be great too. The problem with those ones, I think, is that they're split in the middle, which is kind of odd. I think Golden Jaguar has those on a Voron heat printed. I don't know how he feels about those. But I do like the Rama idlers. It gives you a better alignment for that belt. And I'll look at those in a second, but on top of that, it also gives you pins for your actual idlers as opposed to using 5mm screws. I have a post on my channel on YouTube with measurements of 5mm bolts versus pins, and people will say that the pins don't make that big of a difference. And you know what? That might be true, but I will tell you that there is a ton of slop on a 5mm bolt going through an idler, or any situation where you probably should have a pin and you're using a bolt. Unless there's constant pressure in one direction on that bolt, I would suggest using a pin. Let's see here. Let's see, back here. Sit back upright. This thing's heavy. When you pull the sliding rail, it causes the front to wedge out. Oh, okay. Okay, so what I would do, Woody, is I think you might have missed a small note, and that these 4 screws right here, specifically that are going through the extrusion, are supposed to be left loose until you kind of get a little bit further towards the finer end of this. And again, we've had this conversation, Woody. Don't sweat the fine details until it's time to sweat the fine details, buddy. So you leave these floating. Yeah, I know the measurements might not be exact, and you know, each of these printers is just slightly different. We're not machines. As much as we would like to be as precise as a machine, we can't be. Leave them floating, and what's happening, based on what you're telling me, based on what I'm coming up with here, is that your back here is probably sunken in too far. Once you move your x-axis towards the front, you're bowing out your gantry, which is causing your Rama idlers to be at an angle and therefore causing them to hit the front extrusions. Does that sound kind of close? Let's see here. That looks good now too. Okay, so the new Golden Jaguar is using the current idlers on his on a Voron build, not the ones I used back a year and a half ago. So he says those work good too. When you pull the sliding rail, it causes the front to wedge out. Yep, that's what we're talking about. And then can't get the rail to in tight to the printed part in the back and push the gantry to the front, wedges the front out and sticks in the rails. Yep. I think the pin mod by Hark might be different measurements than the stock parts. Which stock parts? The stock parts in the AB drives, or what are we talking about for stock parts on that one? And Woody, if this goes out to anybody that I've had lengthy conversations, I can't do it with everybody, I apologize, but if a phone call or a Zoom call works better, I do plan on bringing these into the videos at some point, but if we have to do that, I'll help you out, man. I'll do what I can. But let me know, let me see here, what else you got? Woody, yes sir, I figured the rear rail needs to sit flush and not float near the AB drive. So rear rail, so we're talking rear rail, you're talking about the smaller extrusion fits flush. So when you say flush, if you're talking about flush with, my belts are on here, so it's kind of hard. Let me grab this right here and let me drop this down a little bit. You know what? I can do this. We can do a run and gun. Pardon the shaky hand. Woody needs help. We gotta help Woody, bud. All right. Hopefully I don't hit any buttons. So this is what I'm looking at, Woody. There's minimal clearance here on this end here on the AB drive, okay? And then where the extrusion goes into the AB drive, there is a sizable gap. It's meant to be there. It's fine to have a gap here. It will float. These are the 4 bolts that hold that together, and then on the other side, you're going to have a similar gap. I'm not going to guarantee that gap's exactly the size of the other one. It should be pretty dang close, but I'm not going to guarantee it. but there will be another gap in there. So that's gonna be loose. And then again, on the far side over here, again, minimal clearance between that and the belts. The belts do not rub, but they're meant to ride down that rail. Let's see if I can, yeah, they're meant to ride right down that rail alongside that rail. I'm gonna put this down for a second, switch over to this real quick, and then I'm going to answer a little bit more to Rich over at the first layer on the Rama's idlers, kind of show this off a little bit. Rich is building a Voron 2.4. I gotta take this off, it's about ready to fall off, but if you guys don't think I'm smart enough, I can put my smart glasses on. This proves I'm in my 40s, right? If you need these whenever you're working with little things. So let me get back to this real quick. Rama's idlers. All right, so it's awful dark. Well, we'll deal with it. So the Rama's idlers, basically what you're looking at is the belt path here is designed to basically fit, so it's exactly flush with your idler here on your gantry for your X drive, and then it keeps this belt on the back side perfectly flush with the extrusion on the back side here. Comes in, wraps around this. This is a double screwed. This is kind of one of the things that even the current new rendition of the idler doesn't do for the Voron team. Is this has 2 screws in it to make sure the tension is 100%, you know, over the top and bottom of it. It's not just through the center. So I like that. I like the fact that it has easy adjustments from the front. Nice cover plate that goes on there as well. And they're just pretty nice. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's just like anything else. You build your printer. Let's see here. Let me get back to woody rail here. Rear AV drive. So I figured the rear rail, yes, I see it. Perfect. That answers your question. I didn't think I was going to answer your question. My Alexa's made noises. Okay. Again, Woody, hit me up an email with any additional things that you're having trouble with, and we can do a Zoom call or something. Maybe I can record it. I don't know if you're into that. Golden Jaguar. Here's a tip: instead of using the F695, use the G2 bearings in my front idler from Pog on AliExpress. Let's talk about AliExpress real quick. So it's hard to be in one of these hobbies where you're building these types of printers and not buy parts from foreign entities. So I will say that right up front, because I know there's some people that are steadfast Americans, and I consider myself a red-blooded American, but we don't make everything. We make very few things. We're very smart. We like to design things, and we do very good at the things that we do, except for speak, and that's just a me problem. But we're not the worldwide supplier of parts, and unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, right now China is. A decade from now it might change. AliExpress is a great place to get stuff. A lot of people kind of stay away from it because it seems a little gray market-ish, but I'll tell you, I've never had an issue with anything I've purchased from AliExpress. I will tell you that if you can buy it locally, meaning in the States or in Canada or whatever country you're watching this in, do buy it there. You know, you're going to get better customer service from a small vendor than you are from AliExpress. That being said, if you are very price conscious, if time is not of the essence, AliExpress will get you parts for probably anywhere from 35 to 75% off what you're going to pay if you buy it from a shop. Time to get those parts could be triple, quadruple, double the time that you'd wait if you got it from someplace local, but I've never had a huge issue getting parts. Usually they say about a month out and I get them in about 2 weeks. So AliExpress is a good place to go. Thanks Golden Jaguar for saying that, made me think of that, and I think a lot of people question the AliExpress stuff. I am a steadfast KB3D, KB-3D.com purchaser. Buy a lot of things from Chris over there, and the reason I do that is because Chris is a great guy. Chris has answered every question I've ever had and is just awesome with customer service. I will say it to the extent that Chris has items that I can buy on AliExpress, and his prices might be, you know, for a $25 part might be $6, $7 more than they are in AliExpress, but I will buy it from Chris 9 times out of 10 unless he doesn't have it, just because I like supporting Chris and he's a great vendor to work with. I like the G2 suggestion. That is a very good suggestion. Golden Jaguar is always full of good suggestions. If you haven't watched his channel, get over there and watch some of his content. It's pretty awesome. And he can find some really interesting ways around problems. Actually, Woody, you had the question a while back, just proving I remember what you're asking me, about pies and where to find a pie, and you were concerned about being able to find a pie. I don't know if you were able to find a pie. Over on Golden Jaguar's channel, he has a bunch of resolutions for that type of problem. I know you can't link it here in the chat, Golden Jaguar, but if you've got a title or something you can throw up there that Woody could search for, that would be great. If Woody, you've already found something, then that's fine too. Would you get it, a 3B? 3B will work just fine. Don't run Octoprint on it. If you're just going to run Clipper with mainsail or fluid, should be fine. If you're going to run Octoprint, you're probably going to want a 4, but 3B is just fine for what you're doing. Let's see here. I'm thinking of doing 2 Hasty touchers with dials. Just no time to of late. Yeah, toolless. So tool has. See, I need my glasses. So I will tell you that once. So here's the thing about dials, is once you get your printer tuned up pretty decently, and you have somewhere between 40 and 100 hours on that printer, and you're using good belts, don't ask Golden Jaguar about belts. Don't say Gates belts to Golden Jaguar, by the way. Just don't do it. You have decent belts that are properly manufactured. You don't need to adjust your belts all that often. You shouldn't have to adjust your belts. A lot of people run their belts way too tight. The tighter you run your belts, the harder your motors have to work. It doesn't aid in precision. As long as you don't have physical slop in your belts, you're going to be just fine. Don't kill your stepper motors. Don't go in there and say, well, I can't print fast enough, so I got to increase the amount of power going to those motors so I can print faster. Adjust your belts. They're probably too tight. And leave them alone. You know, once you get where you need them, don't mess with them. You know, check them, depending on how much you print, check them once a week, once a month, once a year. Probably not once a year, but you know, once a month is probably enough, and just go over it, just put your fingers on them. You know, there are people that will, there are people that will tell you that you need to download an app and actually, you know, measure the musical sound of your belts. You can go in and you can squeeze them. If you have a little bit of tension before they hit, this one's a little bit loose, but not huge. This one's the same. That's the other thing. The belts are the same. Make sure your belts are all the same. If they're different, that's going to cause you issues. But this one right here is tighter. See right now, I haven't done any tuning yet. I can tell right off the bat, just by feel, that this one's tighter. This one's probably close to where I want it. This one's a little bit too loose. These belts right here on the gantry, you know what? These are pretty decent. You know, you should be able to move your belts. They shouldn't be tensioned to the point where they're static. You know, just little tips. What do we got? Find a supplier you trust and can help make suggestions. Support local if you can. 100%. 100%, Rich. Speaking of which, Rich never talks about it. I don't know what the actual relationship is, but Rich actually works for a filament company in Canada. So if you're watching this in Canada, the first layer, you know, get a hold of Rich if you got any questions about filament up there in Canada. 195 mini or anything that can run RBM Linux. Yep. T95, not 195. Screen's a little far away from me. Again, I should be wearing my glasses. Yeah, Golden Jaguar, you're really helping out. I think I'm not saying the rest of your content's not good, but I would say for the people right now that are getting in the 3D print, especially for the first time, finding, you know, those ARM-based computers in those locations that you're finding them, and there's just awesome deals to be had. I mean, Raspberry Pis right now, you could easily spend $150, $200 on a Raspberry Pi. It used to be $30, you know, a couple of years ago. And Golden Jaguar is finding, you know, what do you call them? Not Chromecast, but basically little Google Android set-top boxes that have the same compute power and abilities that you'll find in a Raspberry Pi, and he's finding for like 39, 40, back to what the price it should be. Let's see, I used to call them Gates 40 years ago, or fiber reinforced. Yep, that's exactly what they are. They're fiber reinforced belts. They don't need to be Gates belts. Gates is a name brand. It's just like saying a tissue, right? Tissue brand, we all say Kleenex. So I need more caffeine, right? Let's see, where else we at here? Love Gates belts, but belts fiber gas reinforced work just fine too. Yep, 100%. Sold them Kevlar. So I'm gonna say another little thing about Woody. Woody actually is it Dow or DuPont? I forget who came up with Kevlar. You'll correct me, Woody. I know you will. But Woody actually worked for that manufacturer when Kevlar came out. So Woody's been DuPont. So Woody's been around so long that he was around when they first came out with Kevlar. So if you know anybody that's worked pretty much anything that requires a highly protective or highly tensionable material such as Kevlar, Woody had something to do with that. Snowmobile belts. You're absolutely right. Snowmobile belts too. Yeah. Used a little belt gauge off printables, made them match. Yep. So again, who said that? That was Steven. So Steven, you're absolutely right. As long as they match, you're doing pretty good. You know, again, they should not be tight. I think there's very little about that really out there. And as I continue on spin, we'll get to that part. I'm really kind of nervous about the programming part of it, you know, setting up the clipper and whatnot, because again, I like to do my videos without outtakes or without editing. And that's, Golden Dragon will vouch for it, I'm sure, but that's sometimes difficult to do because the time that you wait for things to happen is just horrible sometimes, and I don't know that many jokes. I really don't. So keeping people entertained watching something happen on a computer screen when you're trying to set up a clipper is a little difficult, but I'll do the best I can. Worst comes to worst, you guys just got to bear with it. Belt gauge. There's a lot of fellow Canadians. So another point about myself, I am also a fellow Canadian. I have dual citizenship. I live in the United States. I actually live in the balmy tropics of Maine, way down north here, where today, I believe, when I woke up this morning, it was about 7 degrees Fahrenheit. But I have a mother who was born and raised in St. George, Quebec, and I spent a lot of my childhood there, and she is a green card holder in the United States, which means she never became a United States citizen. I was born in the United States to an American father and a Canadian mother, which in Canada gives me dual citizenship. I've never gone to do much with that, but it's there. So I'm your brother in both American and Canadian. How about that? Use a lot of brands of filament over the past 7 years, so I can answer most questions. Hey, Brad, yeah. DuPont, yeah. Hey, makes a real good deal. Makes it real good. 70 here. Yep. So filament. Filament's a good one to talk about. And Rich, I know you got a lot of experience with filament. And I really want to impose on people that if you're building a printer or you have a printer that's capable of printing with ABS, ASA, or even PETG, that you try those other plastics out, especially if you're having trouble with PLA. PLA should be relatively easy to work with. It's pretty forgiving, but you get some really nice prints out of some of these other plastics that they have out there. There are different opinions and different views when it comes to the fumes and the off-gassing from different types of plastics. So do your own research, decide what and how you feel about those things. You know, but there are ways that you can mitigate that stuff as well. But I do say that if you're at all into 3D printing, try different plastics. Some things work better for other things than others. For example, you know, you might want to print something with PLA just because it's going to not have any functional use. It's just there to look nice. Same token, you might be printing something like I got a little can opener for little pop top cans for cat food. My son, back when we started making him do a chore of feeding the cat maybe 4 years ago, had trouble popping that top. So back then I printed in PETG probably 2 years ago, a can opener for that. And but if you did that in PLA, it'd probably snap. So yeah, try other things out there. Firstly, when you, great, now the Canadians are talking. You guys better be polite about it. Ontario, Windsor, Ontario, Calgary. We got all the big cities in Canada. So for those that don't know, 80% of Canadian population lives, what is it, within 150 or 200 miles of the American border? Some of you Canadians will fix that statement to be a little bit closer to true, but it's around about that. So we're all in the same boat. Well, chat's slowing down here. You guys gotta give me something to work with. If not, I'm gonna go back into showing you some other stuff I got going on around here. I got a couple things I can show you. I'm gonna put this printer back aside. You guys load this up. Spend a lot of time in Kingston, Ontario. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this printer that I'm building. If you didn't know, I was building a, oh man. If you didn't know, I'm building a printer. Kind of what I do. I spend more time building printers than actually using my printers, I think. But that's kind of what makes it a hobby, I think. So, grab the stuff. Ray, that's an awesome question, bud. Yeah, kinematics bed set. Let's get back here. Work for a filament company in Ontario. Yep. Kinematics bed setup. How to round 55. How to round 55. Not sure what to make of that one. Okay, by the way, so you're doing a CAN bus on this one. Ray, I am not doing CAN bus right out the gate on this printer. And I have a few reasons for that. But I also went and grabbed a couple things. I'm not doing CAN bus on this printer right out the gate, even though it's my ultimate printer, because I don't know if there's any real true, other than minimizing the amount of cabling going to the printer, I don't feel there's a bunch of benefits to going CAN bus. I think there's headaches to be had if you do it straight out of the build. I think it's a very nice upgrade to a printer. But honestly, I think if I built this printer with CAN bus and I had issues, especially trying to do live videos, it's going to take me a lot longer to figure out what's going on with those two CAN bus wires than it will if I have my actual full scope of wires coming through that drag chain that I can test. So to answer your question, right out the gate, this is not going to be CAN bus. I do have equipment, which we're going to talk about here in a second, that is CAN bus. But I'm probably going to actually wind up installing out my old printer off camera, out of the scene, just so I don't waste everybody's time. And then I think it might be a good upgrade for this printer in the not so distant future. Travel outside of the States, spent time DE as a teen, and risk. Let's see. I'm messing with SB. Yep. Okay. So Ray, I was reached out to by Big Tree Tech about the SB 2040 and what's the other one? The 2090. It's a UR and an ST. Was it STI? I forget what the new interface is. But anyways, I'm getting the UR version. They're actually sending me the UR version of that setup. I have other stuff here. I've actually already purchased other things, but I figured it'd be good for content to compare the different setups. There are so many CAN bus things happening right now, which makes me worried because they're either A, all the same or all different, and either way that makes me nervous. Let's see here. Loose wire, headaches, wire offset config, firmware. Yeah, so much in the same way that I have my concerns about gee whiz, now I can't think of what it's called. Basically homing without switches.
Golden Jaguar, let me know what it is. I know you're doing it. But basically doing your homing without endpoints. I also have the same concerns about the CAN bus. You know, I'm not necessarily a software guy. I can work with software. Centralist homing, yes. So centralist homing, that worries me as well, because you're basically, I've never seen an instance where if you do something in software, it works better than something that's hard-coded or something that's physical. You know, that's the whole reason why we came out, well, I didn't, but personal computers came out, and you know, you're able to do so many things. But a lot of times when you have a machine at table or capable of doing so many things, it doesn't do any of those things as well as it could. A simple micro switch on the end of an end stop that is right where you want it, that provides a closure to a wire, is about as simple as you can come with. Centralist homing, I understand it. You know, basically you're looking back at your controller to tell when, you know, the current goes up on the motor because it's hit kind of a stopping point, and it makes sense. I mean, it should work just fine, but there's going to be fine lines there that, you know, you're on one side or the other. Plus, there's always a small possibility that you hit something on the bed and maybe your threshold's too low, and then next thing you know, it thinks it's at an endpoint, and now it's, I don't know. I'm gonna look into it. Again, that's probably gonna be on my other Voron, which when this one's all working, that's my step, is I'm going over to the other 2.4. We're gonna upgrade that one to an R2. Part of that upgrade is going to be utilizing some of these new things, which then will carry over into the new printer, which will be on video. The R2 changes on there are probably going to be relatively simple. That might be a cut video where I go over the actual parts that are needed to convert a 2.4 to an R2 version. But when I'm doing that, I'm also going to be testing out some of these things. How do I feel about the Nevermore unit? Let's see, I swear iGus needs, I agree, iGus should sponsor you. You're all about that wire for your umbilical cords. How do I feel about Nevermore? I feel Nevermore makes a very good product, or they're not a product making, they're not a company per se. I think it's useful for people that are concerned about fumes in their printers. I wouldn't say that I'm overly concerned, but I am a little concerned about the fumes on a printer. When I get to a point where I can clean up things and have either some way to get rid of those fumes or absorb those fumes, I'm going to do it. On this printer behind me, the 2.4 R2 that we're building on the series, once it's built, I'm trying to source somebody to help me print the Nevermore Max. I think it's going to be too difficult to print the body for the Nevermore Max on my 300 Voron that I have. The actual body for the Nevermore Max is 300 by 300, and it's an ABS because obviously working with a lot of hot air. So that's too close to the edges, too many problems that can be had. So once I'm able to source somebody with a larger printer, maybe a 350 or even a 400 to print that, help me print that, that will be going on this printer, but that'll be an upgrade as well. But I do think if you have the parts, if you're interested in doing a Nevermore, you should definitely do it. Whether it be the Max or a different Nevermore. I couldn't do the standard Nevermore on this because of what I wanted to put on this. I wanted to do my kinematics kit, which you can invert this and put this on the back side, which leaves this open to put a Nevermore. But I also want to do my purge bucket on the back side with brush and my electronics on here. Whoop, I'm gonna drop a camera. And that would have been right in the way of the Nevermore, so I didn't do that. So I wanted my purge bucket and brush, and I didn't want to deal with the Nevermore there. So just for those that don't know, if you're at all interested, the Nevermore Max is a large, obviously, Nevermore. And let me see if I can bring it up here real quick. It's a large Nevermore. If you haven't seen this, it's pretty amazing. That actually goes on to the back of, it's hard to type and talk at the same time, goes on to the back of the Voron printer. Let's see here, this one, I think. Nope, that's not the one. Screen share. Yeah, right there. So it goes on the back of the printer, and this is what it looks like. So this goes on the back where you have the opening on the back where your standard Voron 2.4 filter goes in your filament inlet. This becomes your filament inlet right here. This is top looking down on it. So this basically mounts to the back of the printer. It holds a metric ton of carbon, so you're not switching out carbon constantly. It's another benefit of this unit, but it is honking huge. You can see it right here on the back. You know, you're talking about a 300 by 300 printer. So the body on the printer is closer to 400 by 400. I forget what the exact number is, but this is pretty much a, you know, with the sides on here, probably close to about 330 by 330, which requires a $300 millimeter by 300 millimeter print just for the primary frame, and it is not collapsible, breakable, and the person that designed it refused to even humor me with the idea of making it into multiple pieces. So working on that one. Let's see here. Kinematic mount compensate for thermal expansion, or is it just kinematically coupled? By design, a kinematic mount is going to help compensate for thermal expansion in the way that basically your feet are riding on magnets. Magnets are holding it down, but it's allowing for compensation in terms of, well, I guess compensation is not the right word for this. It's allowing for the bed to basically move freely, and therefore there's not really any compensation, because the belief is if you have a machined the bed, the grain should all be kind of in all directions. There shouldn't be a single grain direction on it. So when that gets heated up, the bed will expand in all directions at the same time, which means that it shouldn't warp. Now, if you have a rolled bed, that means that they've basically pushed the grain of the aluminum in a single direction. So when it heats up, it's more apt to expand in that direction. But the kinematics mount basically allows the bed to float freely. And I can show you that if you're interested. Just hit me a message. Hopefully I can see it. Just use my, do it at Build a Basement if you can, so I can see it quickly. But it's kind of neat. I can show you that. Someone about fumes, ABS gives off from printing. Never one of the best idea. There are two ideas. There's three. One is don't care, which again, that's a self thing. With a new baby in the house, I would care. And especially if you're in an area of the house that is near where people would be often. I'm in the basement, so not such a big problem for me. Two is you can use a Nevermore. There are at least 3, maybe 4 versions of Nevermores. Most of them go underneath the bed. They go right here on the 2.4. They're not difficult to build. Basically, they absorb the fumes via, what do they call it? Carbon pellets. And you do have to swap them out every once in a while, depending on how much you print. The third option you have is basically doing an out fuming. So basically you have a way or a method to fume the inside of your printer to the outdoors. The problem with out fuming is it probably is going to be the 100% way to get rid of all the fumes 100%. But you're also going to be dealing with the fact that you're going to be sucking in room temperature air into your printer, and basically sending all that warmed up cabinet air from inside of your printer to the outdoors. When you're printing ABS, ASA, or any of those high temp plastics, you kind of want your inside of your printer to stay roughly 60 degrees Celsius or higher. And when you're doing that, it's awful hard to do that. Let's see, Brad, I didn't see your joke, bud. I'll have to go back. I'm gonna rewatch this. It's gonna be way more fun to read it than to be in it. Yeah, Warp-O-Matic on the Max Print, absolutely true. Actually, to the point of that, the issue is even with a decent bed, and even with a spring PEI sheet, and even with super magnets underneath it, is that it will actually warp up the spring steel sheet that you're printing on. And if it's not PEI and it's not spring steel, then it's going to pull up PEI off of your bed if it's PEI tape they put on it. And if it's not that, then it's just not going to stick enough to make it work. Let's see here. Let's get rid of this banner. It's blocking me off a little bit here. Let me. Oh, yeah. Let's. Let's see here, Nevermore Max, let's see. I was looking at Nevermore Max, but I don't get where it hooks up, etc. Couldn't find any videos on it. Anyways, that's exactly right, which is why I really want to build one on this printer. So it hooks up on the back. It goes on the back of the printer where your opening is currently, where this would go. So this normally would go on the back of, looking like this, we go on the back of your 2.4 Voron. Your filament comes through here. This is a latch, and inside of here would be where your filter media is, and a fan right here. The Max goes over this hole that's on the back of your printer, and it covers that up and becomes your new back piece. Let's see here. Let's see, Kerm, would you be putting MR wings on or the rear kinematic valve tap, pivoting concerns, the front corner? So the Mandela makes what they call outriggers, which are wings, to put on the rear. You're absolutely right, to put on the rear portions of the kinematics on there, which I actually directly contacted the owner of Mandela to see if they sell a lot of them. You know, it's like, hey, build this printer. I don't want to look like a fool, and I don't want you guys to look bad if I build this. And this is what I've noticed, that this corner, and you know, why don't I show you what I'm talking about it? But this corner right here, when I push on it, it seems kind of suspect. You know, it's there, it works, but I'm worried that it won't work when we come to actually do it. You know, I gave them a fair opportunity to basically say, yeah, we've had that issue. We suggest that people go ahead and use this. That was not what he said. What he wound up telling me was that they sell very few of them. They sell very few of them. He doesn't really think it's needed, but if I wanted to buy one, he'd be more than happy to help me out. So I had that conversation, and that's where it led off to. So this is for all of y'all that haven't seen the video on it, this is the Mandela ultra flat bed with the embedded neodymium magnets on here. So it's 100% flush. You don't have a magnetic sheet on here, which once you get to a point, that's pretty much your weakest link is the magnetic sheet that you put on your bed, because that magnetic sheet will never be flat. No matter what you do, no one even tells you, they're not meant to be flat. They're meant to be magnetic sheets, and they will never be flat. So this forgoes needing to put anything on your bed other than your topper, which could be, you know, a PEI, flex steel plate, or glass, whatever you want to put on this, but it's 100% flat. Need a drink. Talking too much. On the back side of this, excuse me, you have these 3 pins. So you have a 3-point, you have a tripod. So you have 2 in the back, 1 in the front, and you have your plate on top of that. This front plate's standard magnet. The back one here is a concave magnet, so it has to fit kind of into the back side of that. And on this left-hand side, you have rollers. So basically the rollers allow it to move left and right, but not front to back. The concave one doesn't allow much movement at all, and the front will allow move in any direction you have. So with that, basically, everything can shift ever so slightly, because we're talking about millimeters here, or even tenths of, or hundredths of millimeters. But a hundredth of a millimeter in lateral movement on your bed, when it's not able to do that, could easily equal much more than that when it comes to how the bed's going to compensate for it on the surface. It's just like if you ever seen anybody do paintless car dent repair. Just think about that. So that fits on there, and you know, it's on there pretty good, especially, you know, if you're on this, and you know, your printer's never going to be jiggling the bed like I am right now. But this corner, I can push as hard as I want. This corner, almost hard as I want. This corner, about the same as that one. Obviously the front's fine. But this corner right here, the front right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the stream here, but this takes about 600 grams to activate it, or 300 grams. This is where I'm kind of, you know, it's hard to remember all the numbers. it's supposed to require, the tap's supposed to require about half the amount of force to activate it as this requires to make it move. But I'm not 100% sure of that. I did bring my stealth burner to the front here, manually load my gantry down till my tap was basically up, and it did not move my bed, but I'm kind of concerned about it, and it's a valid concern. Why I reached out to Mandela. Supposedly it's not supposed to be a big issue, but we'll see. I gave them the opportunity to let me know it was going to be an issue, so if it happens, it happens. It's going to be on a stream and everybody will see it, and everybody can decide to buy another kit or buy all the parts when they buy it. I guess it works out either way. Also keeping my NX K3, use the sensorless on X and Y. You and your sensorless. See, whooping has a good explanation on that on his GitHub. Woody, on that, on the data, is that for sensorless or kinematics? Because I know he was in the forefront of doing kinematic stuff, as well as whooping was also a big part of the backers on your extrusions. So there's a lot of information there from that gentleman. What I mean is kinematically coupled would mean that the two parts would only fit together one way and only one way. So thermal expansion compensation would mean that the bed is ball magnet that go into shoulder bolts that they can only that they can physically move. Okay, so yes, they can only move one way. Like I was saying before, this allows for lateral movement right here on the rollers. This allows for no movement, and this actually allows for movement in any direction. So when they're all coupled together as three, this bed does not move. Now, when, let's see, thermal expansion compensate mean that the bed has ball magnets. Yeah, so yes, the unit does have ball. It has ball steel that ride on neodymium magnets. I hope that answers that question. I don't want to get overly technical into it, but that's pretty much it. It's a tripod. I'll see here. Okay, try and show me again roughly the best way to figure out the placement of the damn Mandela mounts. I truly hate that I have no measurements and how. Yeah, so I in stream, they're actually right here. In stream, I talked about how the instructions or lack thereof for the Mandela mounts. This is them right here. So like that. They basically show you how the three parts go together, and they show you them on the printer, and that's about it. There is not much here. It's kind of a DIY, figure it out for yourself. In brief, and again, same offer as what I gave out to Woody. If we need to have a Zoom call or something like that, or whatever works best for you, I'm willing to do it. But in brief, basically on this front mount, if your slotted nuts are in here with the long surface facing towards you on the front, all the way up, that will be the proper placement. So I found, based on using a tap with a stealth burner, because this will move depending on what you're using here, the stealth burner with a tap or a stealth burner without a tap. This will move your nozzle depending on that. So based on my setup, that's where that goes. Once you get there, I don't have numbers in front of me right now, but basically once you have that front, you can measure off of there. You can measure from pin to pin on your build surface, and that will get you where you want to be here. Now the big thing to note is that your rear mounts are actually more important as to where they go, even though you're using your front mount to kind of figure out where that goes, because your front is just a flat surface disc neodymium. So you can go to the left or right. If you were dead center on it, you probably have about 5 millimeters in any direction that you go in that will conk it a little bit. But the big thing is you want to make sure that your bed is flat across the front. The way I did that was with a straight edge across the front. Calipers, measure far end. I think I was within 1 millimeter, which is good enough for me. Woody would have spent 2 weeks doing it, but I kind of know when to call it. I really like the stealth burner, the way it looks. This came out pretty well. Tap is nice too. Clockwork too, I will tell you, bar none, way better than the first Clockwork. I was not a fan of the first Clockwork to the point where I went out and I replaced it. It's right here. So this was the Clockwork one from my other Voron. This is the parts to it. I did not like it, I replaced it. But on this Clockwork 2, it works really well. The filament path is very good, it's clean. The clamping force is good. The fact that there's a adjustment screw on the inside is great too. I'm really excited about the 4K camera on this. And if you didn't catch that screen, there's actually a 3DO 4K camera on that for an up close. I'm also going to have another in printer camera, so there's going to be 2 cameras on this build. Let's see here, Brad, okay, try again. Let's see here. We'll probably go another 15, 20 minutes, guys. So if you have questions or if you want to see anything around here, if you have questions for me, hammer them out. I'm going to go through and read down through here a little bit. If you try to show me again roughly the best way, yep, we'll do that. My peripheral provider said that the magnet mat supply 3O kit use Gravitex 200 high strength magnet, if I could source one. Yeah, so the LDO kit with the LDO bed comes set up with the magnet sheet, and I think it comes with a magnet sheet on it. No, it doesn't. It comes with the bed with the heater on the bottom and the thermistor. You have to mount the fuse, I believe, or maybe that came on it, and you have to put the magnet. I sent mine out to a fellow YouTuber, not naming names. Hopefully he gets that soon. I didn't need it because I got my my ultra flat. Woody, if you're going to excuse me, go with this to the nth degree, you're going to want something like this Mandela bed. But I will say this, and I will say it to everybody and anybody, when you're building this printer, even if you build it with the cheapest, worst parts ever, do it, get it done, use it, figure out what the issues are, and then work it from there. If you have, you know, all the best parts in the world and the printer doesn't work well, you're going to feel a lot worse than if you have just the normal parts that came with it and more community to help out with that because it's a base package, and you don't have, you know, extra money tied into it. You just might not lose hope as quickly. So build a printer, don't worry about some of those things, but these are good upgrades to do once you have your printer working. Let's see here. Outrigger would help with the front right. You're absolutely right. The outrigger would help with the front right. Totally agree. Like I said, the CEO over at the Mandela Roseworks said he hasn't sold a lot of them. Doesn't think it's needed. So we'll see. On a separate note from that, though, just to make a mention, if you do have this and you have that issue, or if you're going to do this and you do have that issue, you don't necessarily have to do their outriggers. Their outriggers pretty much they're beautiful. They're machined aluminum just like these, and they're beautiful. But you could simply, if you wanted to, is get some shorter extrusions. This would be like my Golden Jaguar fix for this, because I know he does everything he can on his own. Get some extrusions and mount them laterally across between your bed mounts and your frame, and then move these over further to get yourself that bigger triangle. In actuality, I think, this is just a me thing, I think Mandela could have made this front brace maybe about 30% bigger, wider, and then basically just instructed you to move these mounting points out further, which would have the same effect on without buying additional parts. So that's another option that I have at play, is basically building some type of extensions here out of ABS or something, and allowing me to push these out, and that puts those out as well. So there's a ton of things we can do. So I'm not overly concerned about it. Let's see, spec tap was 500 grams of forcement release. Yep, 500 grams, and I think they say it takes 600 to make that go bonky. So it's 100 grams between here and there. I call it cutting it close. Supposedly it's not, I don't know. Forgive me when you say alongside a roll-in. I will show you. I have, these are 3mm. So your T-nuts, your roll-in T-nuts, there are, let me go to actually, I got my little camera that's normally on a tripod. We'll use this one. Whoop, it's moving on its own. So what I'm talking about is these guys right here. These are always offset, so they allow you with more possibilities for configuration. So what I'm talking about is the long end of this versus the short end of this. So this longer front end is what faces towards the front with the shorter end on the back. That right there, that long end, is enough spacing to put that front bracket far enough back, or far enough forward and far enough backwards to have it where it needs to be. And then from there, it's minor tweaks. We're talking, you know, millimeter or two.
Let's see. Why you gotta tell me that, Golden Jaguar? Yours is 600 grams. That's exactly what they say this takes to make it fail. Much better when it's 500 and 100 to play with. So talking about that a little bit, there are some things that I question. For instance, on the Stealth Burner tap combo here, on your tap, you have a place to put your excess belts. And when you do that, you're causing more friction, because those belts, I mean, it's not a lot, but we're talking about not a lot to start with, but you have 4 belts, or 2 belts, but you have 4 ends of belts, you know, 2 on one side, 2 on the other, that are going through these clips, which could cause slightly more pressure needed to raise that tap. So that's something I have in my mind. Worst comes to worst, I've never quite understood why you leave those belts long, other than working with them, and especially with this new, the new tap, the way the tap mounts to the X rail. You could cut those flush. I mean, if anything, you're going to have to make your belts shorter, you know, because they might stretch. They don't usually, you know, they don't usually contract on each other. So that is something I've thought about on that. As soon as 2 more hours is done, I will be able to print PIF for the community. Way to go. Funny thought. I also thought I was going to print PIF for the community, but then I wound up printing stuff for myself and more printers. So I never guaranteed or promised anything to anybody, but it's almost like a snowball effect. Once you print your parts for your Voron, you build a Voron, then it's for better or worse, it's upgrades from there. Not because you need them, because the printer works awesome. It's because you want them. We're all tinkerers in different rights. I'm gonna do the magnets. I have to. Yep, Woody. You could easily, if you have the drill press, and you got the skills, you can do the same thing. You will have to source the neodymiums that have a hole in the center of them. And the one thing I will say is you're basically going to need something like a Forstner bit to do these magnets, because you don't want to obviously go all the way through. And then you're going to have to tap the center, dead center. So there's some decent amount of machining required to do what they did here. The bed's not hugely expensive, and the other side of this is how flat the bed is. I think this was 0.0026. You see, it's on the packaging. I have no way of measuring it, so they could be completely lying to me, but it came right on the bag. 0.0025. So a very, very, very flat bed. While I'm over here, I guess I'll grab this. I don't know how many of you guys saw this, but I did post it once or twice and talk about it some. So this is something that KB3D did for me. I had this idea. I said, hey, I know you do some laser engraving. What's the chances that you could, on some panels I'm buying, these are aluminum panel. Well, they're not aluminum panels. They're plastic with aluminum on either side. I know there's a name for them. I don't know it off the top of my head. But these panels, he sells them. The good thing about these panels, they don't warp with heat because of the aluminum on them. And he was able to go ahead and use his CO2 laser to engrave. I had to provide the picture for him, and that was kind of hard to source something that was clean enough. But basically, this is the Voron
multi-part picture. I don't know if it has a real name to it. There are a few different versions of this, but this will be on the back side of the printer when it's completed. Really excited about that. So that'll be on the back side like that. I know it's kind of hard to see in that video camera angle, but and then obviously with lighting and whatnot, it's gonna look pretty special. Pretty excited about that. And I'm not even gonna mention the side panels that have my logo on them, even though I just did. Let's see here. I want a KB 3D shirt. I might have to get one next purchase. Yeah, they're pretty nice, right? He's got the KB 3D orange, which matches pretty well with the KVP orange filament. So that's one thing. One thing I will say, I don't buy my filament from Chris. I'm not a big fan of the Keen Village filament. It's okay, but it's not my favorite. I'll buy everything from Chris, but I don't buy my filament from him. But I think he's working to expand that a little bit. Let's see here. I've seen photos of the tap belt wrap around mounts on Discord. Tap belt wrap around mounts. So you're talking about the I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about if they don't wrap them around and having them go back into the X mounts here. I could definitely see that happening. I would cut them flush, honestly, and I probably will wind up cutting them flush, to be honest. Let's see here. Are you going to do Wago? Okay, so so I am doing a 5-volt power supply on this printer. A certain somebody that is currently still in the stream kind of convinced me of it. I was on the fence on it. I didn't necessarily off the gate or out the gate like the idea of not having a 5-volt power supply, and somebody brought it back into my focus that there are some limitations there that I'll have to work with, and possibly some negatives to not having a 5-volt power supply. So with the lighting, with everything that's going on there, the Pi and everything else, I might need 5 volts. I'm going to be putting a 5-volt adapter in this. Now, in terms of Wagos, my bed mounts, I don't know how visible this is, but my bed mount right here is Wago. Basically, I got my mains in, my neutral, and then my thermal fuse, and then my thermistor, and then my bed ground, all there. That's another, I think it's another Rama part. That's all magnetically held together, by the way. That's pretty cool. I have a video on that, I think. And then on the back side of it, LDO provides terminal blocks. I use terminal blocks in my solar system I have here at the house. There's nothing wrong with terminal blocks, but I don't know why they didn't go Wago. I mean, Wagos aren't that expensive, and I can't imagine this was much cheaper. So I am still a little bit on the fence on that. I feel like I should use the terminal blocks because it came with the kit, and most people that are going to watch these types of videos are probably trying to find answers to problems they're having with the kit they're putting together. But I definitely think it's someplace where I can do an upgrade. I have plenty of Wagos. I buy my Wagos in bulk. I like the Wago. Wago good. So, I mean, I got more Wagos than most people should have. So yeah, it's probably gonna be an upgrade to Wago. Wago upgrade. Let's see here. Wago, use an end mill. Yep. You can do that if you've got the equipment to do the machining. It's all you. You're definitely a hands dirty type of guy, and I like that. In my opinion, you want all your 3 mounts to be slidable, where another YouTuber shows that nice concept. Joshua Vasquez, Kinematic, a couple 3D printer bed, proof of concept. Slidable, where your other. Yeah, so if I was gonna do slidable mounts, I wouldn't disagree. I'll say that first. I would do, first thought would be I'd do horizontally slides on the back, and then a front to back slide on the front. That way expansion could take place in all directions. I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't know why they built it the way they built it. but I'm going to use it the way they built it, and we're going to see how that turns out. ACM panels, you're absolutely right. SK3D, thank you for that. That is the aluminum plastic panel I was just holding up. And Steve too. SK beat you by seconds. So yeah, so ACM panels, just so you guys know, those again came from KB3D. It's a huge upgrade. The other panels that come with the kits, nah, I can't take one of those off. I was gonna take one off my other Voron real quick, but I'll make a bunch of noise and make a mess. They're gonna bow eventually, especially top and backs and the bottom. You can put clips on them and try to hold them, stuff like that, but eventually they're gonna bow. There's nothing you can do to get around it. ACM shouldn't do that. Question, why don't you like the KVP filament? I'm having to print my parts in it. Now I'm scared to answer. All right, so if you can print KVP and it works well for you with the way that you normally print, I don't think there's a problem. There are two issues I have with KVP. Issue number one is it doesn't print like my other ABS. My other ABS I mostly use are my Polymaker and my Sparkle. It's not all Sparkle, but my Sparta ABS and my Polymaker ABS. That's what most of my ABS is. And the KVP does not print with the same settings. Those two do. So with some finagling, I'm sure if I moved over to everything being KVP, it'd be worth it. But for me right now, I just don't like it. The other issue that I've heard is that from batch to batch, they have consistency issues with color. So you could have a roll of orange, red, blue, green, whatever color it might be. And then if you order another roll a month later or 3 months later, or even the same time, and it just happened to be two different batches, and you want your parts to match, and you want things to look nice, they may not match exactly. So those are the two reasons that I have for that. And the third, more or less a minor reason, is it tends to cost a little bit more, and I have no idea why it costs more, because of the first two reasons I gave you that I don't really like it. Yes, so the rat rig does use a completely different system actually. They use a 3-point, and there's this ball on all of them. It looks really weird. I'd like to build a rat rig. There's two things I'd like to do on stream, and eventually if I get enough viewers and I actually have some money to do things with at some point in time, I'd like to do a rat rig of some sort. I would also like to do a Voron build challenge. I've had this idea in the back of my mind. I would like to do a marathon speed build of a Voron. It has to be a Voron I've already built before. So I'll either have to build a Trident and say I can do a Trident 2, but right now it would be a Voron 2.4. But basically do a speed build, maybe a speed build competition between me and somebody else. Do a side-by-side YouTube. I don't know if it's going to be, how long it's going to be, but I think I can build a Voron. They say 40 hours. I think aside from electronics, all that mechanical stuff like that, I think aside from the actual software on it, because things happen, I think I can build a whole Voron in probably under 12 hours. Well under 12 hours, assuming all the parts are ready and I got everything ready to go. And I think it'd be fun to do. I think a lot of people know that it takes roughly 40 hours to build a Voron, and even longer when you're filming it. But it'd be fun to build one as quickly as possible and not worry so much about camera angles and things like that. It'd be more for me, but for entertainment as well. That would be fun to do. So, but I also would like to build a rat rig. Those interest me. It was actually the second print I saw, and I was actually working on whether or not to do a Voron or a rat rig. I saw Maker's Muse working with the rat rigs, so they do interest me. I think they come up with a better name, but let's see, question. My question, what's your next build? So, that's a good question. It's either going to be another Voron or a rat rig. I might build a Trident. If I build a Trident, it will be for precision. I had this conversation with Golden Jaguar during one of his streams. Not a conversation. It's hard to have a conversation, but I had that note to Golden Jaguar during one of his streams that I feel that a lead screw is more precise than a belted drive for your Z, which is kind of odd because a lot of people take the V0 and they put a belt drive on it, even though it's a lead screw drive. So I think I'd like to build a Trident, a Voron Trident. If I can somehow get funded to do that, or partially funded to do that, that would be nice. And I might do it on my own if I have to. Or a rat rig. One of those two I think will probably be my next build. And the Trident, if I did it, I do it specifically for the thought that it's running on lead screws, and I try to make the most precise printer that I could print, you know, the nicest little things I could, because a lot of times I print small things for kids and stuff. So that's what I would probably do. Answer that question. Let's see here. Let's see, my PIF provider moved away from KVP due to warps and quality issues after they lost a key person in their manufacturer operation. I'd lose. Well, the printer has to be functional. You know, you can't. I know why you'd lose, because of how nitpicky you are there, Woody. But I would say that it'd have to be some guidelines. The printer has to be functional within, you know, a certain spec. We'll say, you know, 5% spec or something. We'd have to come up with something. It'd be fun. Maybe LDO will fund it between me and somebody else when I become more popular. If I become more popular, right? And then as for that KVP stuff, it's hard to believe that losing a key person in manufacturing would change their product that much. I mean, they're mixing chemicals to make, or plasticizers and plaster.
Alert. Tyson has left the house area.
My dog ran away.
Alert.
He'll come back. That's actually another hobby of mine, is home automation. So another thing this printer is going to have is I have a, I'm going to be using some of the outputs in my Clipper config to basically send messages to an ESP32 that will be talking to my home assistant system here at the house, which will allow me to do automations based on what the status of the printer is. So when a print starts, for instance, I could have it so Alexa announces that your print has started, which would be kind of annoying, but it's something I could do. Better than that is when a print ends, I could have the same thing happen, have a light blink or something like that, get a message on my phone, things like that. So I'm going to pull this printer into my home automation system too, and that's going to be one of those upgrades I'm going to do as well. I already have everything kind of working for that, but that's something I don't want to do. I don't want to pull in right away yet. Let's see here. Do a 400 presently until I got the electronics kit was mounting hardware on it, so still planning that out. Yep. Mounting hardware. I'm talking about screws, nuts, and bolts, things like that. Buy them in bulk. If you get into this hobby at all, if you enjoy yourself doing this at all, you're going to want to buy extras anyways. So you could buy, you know, exactly what you need for X amount of dollars, and probably for 10% more, you'll have enough to build 3 printers. So just throw that out there. Funny is always in my credit cards are smoking. Yeah, my I'm gonna have to print myself some new credit cards. I really use this Trident for several reasons. Hotter printing, top of the chamber, and precision. Yeah, so Woody, I'd say the Trident is probably more precise. There are benefits and negatives to printing at the top of the chamber. Yes, it's hotter, but I could forego that hotness by putting some type of additional heating inside this, which, believe it or not, is protected under patent, but I'm not selling it. So, but yeah, you could add more heating on the inside of there to help with that. Printing at the top of a printer is going to be warmer up there. The biggest negative is the old balance thing, you know, because down here you're really rigid and solid, and the higher you go up with the bed on lead screws, the more chance you have for an introduction of wobble, or the more chances you have of vibrations becoming greater. And I actually have a question on that maybe I'll throw out there, and it has to do with when you do input shaper on a printer. If you have a Trident, you do input shaper on it. Do you run input shaper at the top, in the middle, or on the bottom, or do you do it 3 times? Because I would be willing to bet that input shaper would have different results based on where that bed is in that printer. If you have information on that, send it my way. I'd be interested in anything you can offer with ESP32. I have 3 cameras, wireless cards to them. I was planning on cameras internal, one of the printers, purchased for research. So inside of this printer is a 4K 3DO camera. I mentioned it a few moments ago, but I'll mention it again. That's going to be going to Clipper. There's also going to be a Logitech camera in here. And then we'll look at this stuff real quick. There's also on the front, and we're going to button this up here pretty quick too. Don't leave just yet, but I don't want to drag this on forever. There's going to be a wave share on the front of this running Clipper screen. Something like that. So 3D printed mount for that. And it's got a offset mount. This is a touch screen. Nice little unit from Waveshare you can get for not a lot of money. So that's going to be the screen on the front of my printer. Let's see, what else is there? The Logitech camera, the Waveshare. The camera is going to be a C920X Pro HD webcam. I haven't decided on an exact mount on that and placement for it. My guess is it's either going to go off to the side or on the front facing down. Around the side of here, just a little bit of information that you'll see in future videos, is I am using clamps to mount my panels on here. I will have the pinned door panels on here. What else is different? I don't know. What do you got comments? Steve, I put screens on printers, but I never use them. Yeah, I will agree with that. The only time I use my little, I forget what they call the small screens. The only time I use my small screen on my printer is if I walk by it and I want to preheat it without bringing up a computer. Other than that, I don't use it. My Voron Zero has no screen on it. And I don't recall last time I used a screen on my Ender 5. I do everything via web browser. Don't have my tablet down here right now, but I have a cheap Fire tablet that I run a browser on that, and I bring up my fluid or my my mainsail on that, and I'm able to monitor my printer from afar, so I can bring it around the house with me, which is part of why I got the idea of doing the home automation, so I could see that. So yeah. Input shaper are affected by mounting location of the belt, tensioning, all affected by increasing the frequency limit from 130 to 200. I like Clipper screen better on a tablet. Yeah, it's doable. I could probably have fit a phone on this thing, but there wasn't enough room to put a tablet on here. I had a couple of devices I was thinking about doing that, but in the end I just went with the Waveshare, just because the parts are available and I didn't want to spend weeks on weeks trying to find stuff. Let's see here. Removable door panels with drill-through mounting. Yes, exactly. I can design ones for you. I know you can, and I would appreciate it, but I already have some. The dog is leaving again. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up in probably, let's see here, 5 minutes. So if you got questions or comments or anything else you want to talk about, that'd be great. While I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna throw this out there. It sounds like Golden Jaguar is in. It sounds like the first layer might be in on doing something together collaboratively, maybe doing Zoom calls in. If you go to my YouTube channel, there is my email address, and you know what? I'll throw it up on screen too. Give me a second here. What I will need from viewers is I cannot type and talk at the same time. I will need email addresses. So if you're interested in joining us on a stream. And I can't guarantee how soon it's going to be. It could be, it's probably not going to be a week from now, but it could be a couple weeks from now. It could be a month or two from now. But if you want to email that address on there and maybe put in the subject line Zoom, then what I'll do is I'll have those email addresses so I can send out invitations. And then basically I'll probably pre-send out an email saying, I got your email address, I appreciate it, thank you. I'll let you know when we're planning on doing, or when I or other people, if they join, plan on doing a live stream along with the Zoom into it. So you'll have notice, and you have to respond back whether or not you plan on being available. If you are, I'm going to send you a Zoom link, and then you'll be admitted into a room at the time of the call, or at the time of the stream, and then you'll be brought into the stream during that. There's got to be a little bit of a, not necessarily a relationship there, but a little bit of trust. I don't see many people, if any, that I've seen actually bring people in on their live streams. I become responsible for it. So if that does happen, I just ask that people keep the language down to PG-13 and try to play nice. So there's the email address on the screen as well, but it's also on my YouTube page if you go there. Mount for a tablet. What tablet? I like the Fire tablets. They're cheap. Golden Jaguar. I don't know what tablets you're using. I like the Amazon Fire tablets. I run those through. I get rid of the Amazon junk off of it, and I don't think you can be in for the price. Maybe you can be in for the price, but I can't be in for the price. Woody, thank you for being here, and you're welcome. Steve, same to you, buddy. SK3D, again, special thanks to you, my first patron. I appreciate that greatly. Anything I get doing this goes directly back in the printers. Put a lot into it thus far with cameras and buying stuff, but I enjoy doing it, so that's on me. But if anybody helps out, that's great too. Let's see here. Great stream, Gold. Thank you, man. Send me an email. Awesome. Hopefully you got that window fixed, by the way. Take care. Shaw, thank you. Have a good evening all. Great stream. Works fire. Yeah, works fire. Awesome. Send it over, man. You got my email address on screen. Right down there. Awesome. All right, guys. So I really appreciate this. I had, a decent amount of people on here, so I definitely want to do it again. Go ahead and shoot me an email or leave a comment on this. Let me know if you want to do this again, if you enjoy this type of stream. I know we didn't do a lot of 3D printing stuff, really, but this is more of a, let's chat it out type of thing. I've had a lot of comments in the past. People enjoy my content because there's no chat going on. I'm not stopping to talk to people and stuff like that. We're just doing the build and we're doing it in detail. So I want to continue to do that. I don't want to bring this element into that, but to have this element for some people that enjoy this type of thing, and honestly, I enjoy it as well. I want to do this every once in a while as well. So I really appreciate everybody's time. I really appreciate everybody visiting, and hopefully I see you all very soon. Take care.